So my name is Eilis the Stone. I'm the Kingdom Exchequer. Today's class is called SCA-rs Training Part 2. The Part 2 was just because we had training last June and July, mostly June, that talked about the beginning of SCA-rs and how to use it and all of that stuff, because we were just introducing it to the kingdoms as the kingdoms were all starting to open up post-COVID. So now this is what we've learned, okay? And we're trying to make it a little bit more clear cut for everybody. We're trying to make it so people understand what steps are involved, because it's a pre-registration system, right? What does SCA-rs stand for? It's Society of Creative Anachronism Reservation System. That's what it stands for, okay? So who can use this program? Any group can use this program as long as you are in good financial standing within the kingdom, meaning you've turned in your monthly reports on time, you are communicative with, your regional, we don't have trouble getting a hold of you, right? So because that is a really huge component to what we do with the SCA-rs program. One of the things that we have learned through all of this is that, if we're not getting emails back, or we're not, having this open dialogue, problems can arise for your event, but they're not things that cannot be fixed, at least most of the time, okay? Especially if we know about them. So there was another thing I wanted to say too. At this time, because this comes up a lot, at this time, the Society for Creative Anachronism, the BOD, requires pre-registration for events in all of North America, okay? So while you do not have to use this program to have an event, you still have to pre-register your attendees to an event. And you can use Google Docs, you can use whatever means you would like. But this SCA-rs was brought before the kingdoms as a way to pre-register people and take money via a credit card, okay? So then gates did not have to be bogged down with lines of people as we're all wearing masks and things like that, with people having to pay money and all of that stuff. That is why it was kind of started and has been kind of heavily leaned upon by the kingdom for its use, okay? A lot of people are really enjoying the fact that they have paid for an event. They go and say, I'm Eilis the Stone, and then bye, have a good day, because as a member, your waivers are already on file and things like that. So we're not signing a lot of extra paperwork. Gate is not as many people, or it's not as big of a deal in that regard. I'm not saying that you still don't have to do a lot of work, but I'm just saying you don't have the passing back and forth of things. So as I've said before, I'm going to moderate the questions. If I think that it's going to be answered in a little bit of a later thing, I might private message you, but I'm going to turn this over to my deputies. Okay. Snowden is the EPay deputy for the kingdom. She and Mistress Gwynedd are my deputies for this program, because I don't feel that it's ever appropriate to just have one person in these roles, right? But if you're talking to the EPay deputy, you're talking to Snowden, okay? And she's going to walk you through what you do to get started for your event, okay? So I'm going to turn that over to her. If any other questions pop up, like I said, put them in the chat, okay? So Snowden, I'm going to have you take over, okay?
Okay, thank you. All right, so in the early days of this, I created a form that is very different, or mostly different, than what we have now. We've gone through, I don't know, I think this is the 4th or 5th form. We've changed up some things. We've made it a little bit better. Can you all see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Got it, okay. So in June, we were unaware, because there was some training prior to going live with the system, but we hadn't used it. So we didn't really understand what what its capabilities were and what its problems was. So as we started using it and as groups wanted to use the family cap, we discovered that the system doesn't allow that for non-members. So we've removed that portion of it. At some point, if the system is capable of it, we will circle back and allow that again. So what I'm going to go over with you is the form that needs to be filled out by every group, whether it's the group's Exchequer or the group's Exchequer and the reservationist, who is typically the person that's running gate. So in the event and the fees that are involved in using the system are required to be approved by the financial committee of that group. And then once that's done, then either the Exchequer, the seneschal, whoever wants to fill out the form, and the reservationist fills out the form and sends it to me. And then I take it, I review it, and I start to build the event. Building the event takes me about max 30 minutes. So it's a fairly quick process. Once I have the form, if there's a lot of questions because you've left a lot of things blank or you've missed things or the fees aren't adding up to match what you have on your website, you'll get questions. So my biggest thing is I need communication. The problem with my email, it seems to end up in a lot of people's spam folders. So it's important to always check your spam folder once you send me a form. So this is the form. It's some people have had it fillable, some people have downloaded it and it's not been fillable. So however you can get the information in here, typing it is best because not everybody's handwriting is very readable. I'm sorry for people that have fancy or sloppy handwriting. I need to be able to read it. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of questions whenever I can't read something. So it needs to be legible. The name of your event, the date of your event. If it's a weekend event, put the date range in here. If it starts on Friday, ends on Sunday, I need the date range. The middle, because we are a middle kingdom, that's not a fillable field. You don't need to do anything with that. The name of the hosting group. So who are you? If you're doing it in joint combination with a secondary group, I just need the main group that is doing it. Even if you're splitting it 50-50, who's the group that's sending me the form? You're going to be listed as the secondary group. The reservationist, some groups have had the Exchequer be the reservationist. Reservationist, whoever's running gate. And they're typically the person that I need to communicate with because they're the one that's receiving the reservation emails. They are the person that is typically sending me the form so that this way I can ask them questions. I can, if an odd email reservation comes across, I can communicate with them to see if anybody's reached out to them because they've received their confirmation strange. That will be gone over in a little bit. So the reservationist name, their modern email. Now, when I say their modern email, I mean the email that is in your membership profile, your membership database profile. So even if you're using a Kingdom email or a group email, I need what you have on your membership profile because that's where those emails are going to go. I do not have the capability and the system does not allow me the capability to update that email. So I always try and check to make sure whenever I'm responding back to let you know that the event is open, I do respond back and I'm like, the emails will be going to this email so that you're aware that it's going to not go necessarily from the email you're sending me on the form. The event steward, we need that just so that this way we know who is actually the name on the event. Because if I can't get in touch with the reservationist, the event steward and the Exchequer are the next people I will reach out to because, again, communication is very important for me. Their legal name, I can find them in the database, so I don't necessarily need the email. As long as I know who it is, I can find them. The local Exchequer, that's needed for not necessarily just us, but also society. When the form goes to them, they need to know who the local Exchequer is, their phone number, and the address where the check is going to in case society has a question when cutting the check. The next portion is, when do you want me to open this? You may send this to me on Sunday, but you don't want it open until like the following Thursday. Put the date that you want me to actually open the event. I can open it the next day. Please don't have it to the same day that you've sent me the form, because if I'm at work, there's a possible 12-hour window. I'm not necessarily going to get to it that night. I work on computer all day long. I'm a little brain fried sometimes when I get home. When do you want me to close the reservation, or the registration? When do you want that closed? So society wanted us to tell everybody to close it 2 weeks in advance of your event. That makes no sense in the middle of a pandemic or towards the tail end of a pandemic or wherever we're currently sitting in the pandemic. I advise closing it as close to your event as possible, just so that this way, if anybody needs to cancel, they've got that capability. Like if they test positive in that window that we're requiring before people can show up into an event, if they test positive, they need to possibly cancel their reservation. They can log into the system and cancel that way. If we've closed it 2 weeks in advance, guess where that testing window is? After we've closed it. Doesn't work out very well. So if you want it to close on the Thursday prior to your event, so 2 days in advance, that's probably perfect. You can even, if it's only a Saturday event, you can close it on Friday. I can get you those reports as soon as I get home from work. It takes about 20 minutes max to run the reports and compile all the data correctly and get rid of the fields that are just nonsense fields. You do what's best for you. If you are having a box lunch and you need to make those prior to the event, probably closing it on Wednesday, but that's something for you and your group to decide. I'm not going to decide that. I'm not going to have any input on that. It is your decision what you want to do for your event. The member registration fee and the non-member registration fee. So those are those two boxes here. Remember that non-members get a discount, so make sure that your rates are different. The child, you're going to put in here, if you want the adult paid rate to start at 18, your child age range is going to be 0 to 17, and then put the rate. If you have two, where you're going to have like 0 to age 6 as free, and then from 7 to 17, put your next field in here. So it would be the secondary age here and that rate that you're going to put here. The cancellation date is the date that it's typically the last day that the event is open for registration, because once I close the event, you cannot modify your registration and you cannot cancel, because the event disappears from the SCA-org page. So you can't do anything. Once it's closed, it's closed. There's no cancellation. They can certainly reach out to the group and say, hey, I registered, I cannot make it. The event is closed. What do I do? That's on the group to communicate with them then. Cancellation fee, you cannot charge, you can charge. What we recommend to groups to do is to maybe charge at least $1. That would cover your 4% fees, because no matter what, there's a 3% there's a 3% transaction fee and a 1% usage fee. So a total of 4% off of your member and non-member rate for each person, for each thing. So if someone registers, there's your fees. If they cancel, it's also been used again. So there's another fee. So if you charge $1, your fees are going to be covered. So if you don't want to charge a fee, that's great, because that's something that you need to figure out on the end whenever you're running your reports and you're doing your final of the event and you're seeing your cancellations and you're cutting checks to anybody that's requested a cancellation or refund, that's for you to figure out how much is going to be deducted for your cancellation fee. If you want to charge more than $1, feel free. If you don't want to charge anything, totally up to you, totally understand. And again, I'm going to circle back to the family cap we cannot currently do. We hope in the future we can circle back to that. But right now, the system only looks at membership and offers a cap that way. If you enter in a family incorrectly and you're not following the appropriate steps as far as the system is concerned, and someone gets added in that's family but isn't showing up as family and a child, it's going to charge them the fee and it's not going to be in that cap. So the family cap is just not a capability at this time.
Hey, Snowden, let me interrupt real quick before we move past the cancellation fee. Have we had any groups charge a cancellation fee yet?
We have. We've had everything between $1 and we've had up to $5.
Okay. How Artemisia asked a question: is the cancellation fee documented somewhere? Sorry, I'm reading it and somebody else popped up. Is the cancellation fee documented somewhere so the people running the event know about it and how much it is? So I'm assuming that is in response to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Artemisia, I'm assuming that means like you've published that on your website as a means of like what we do with the cancellation fee. We might have to clarify that one, but I wanted to check because I knew that some groups had done a cancellation fee, but I wasn't sure how much that really kind of rewritten. Okay, she's rewording the question. Does the group know what fees they will be charged and when? So the group will be charged a 3% usage credit card fee. That's on the table, bottom line. There is then a 1% usage fee from society because society pays for this program, right? They pay to have this thing utilized. There's a range of how much, and it's based on how much comes in the gate. Okay. So, that is, yes, there is a maximum of $400 and you would have to bring in like $40,000. Okay. So that's the maximum, right? No one's done that. I think that it's been in a range, and maybe Daffod can say, cause I don't have one in front of me. Like I've seen him for like $40, because they had quite a few people there. So it's that 1% usage fee coming off. I think the minimum is like $15, but I don't think that
they've removed the minimum. So it's 1% to a maximum of $400.
Okay. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Artemisia? Just, I just wanted to make sure we didn't move on too quickly. Yes, it answers it. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we were getting that all handled. Okay, keep going, Snowy.
Okay. The second page is all your extras. Now, right now, as we're starting to come into the spring and summer, I don't know where groups are going to be at with the camping, with bunks, with tents, with all of the lunches and feasts and all of that. Where we're at with that will depend upon where we're at pandemic wise. But if we maintain this for the system forever, you will eventually go back to camping and cabins and lunches and feasts and equestrian. So we've tried to make sure that there is room on here for you to put anything that we could come up with that's come across since the pre-registration, since the EPay office was formed. So we've had, like, for RVs, is there an extra charge for RV hookup? Is there a charge for tent camping with electric? Is there horse stall? Is there some other kind of fee related with horse stall? Are you charging for hay, or is hay included in that? So like I couldn't put every possible thing that I could come up with. So these are the predominantly most used for the events that we've had in the Middle Kingdom. So you would fill in how much, if it's a cabin, what's your bed limit? What's your bed limit for the top bunk? What's your limit for the bottom bunk? If there are no bottom bunks, if it's a cabin that's only got just one layer of bed, just a single bed, then you wouldn't have to fill that bottom portion in. You would just fill in the one. Are you doing, and this was the per night, are you charging a different rate for the weekend? If you're not, I need to know that if it's a weekend event, I'm going to question, I only see per night rates. If you're only doing camping on Saturday night, which is a little weird, usually it would be Friday night, Saturday night, then you're going to put in a weekend rate. Even if it's just this times 2, then please fill that in, just so that this way there's not a whole lot of questions back and forth, so that this way when I look at the form, I'm like, okay, I got it. All right, no problem. This is easy to set up. It's the less questions, because the better the form is filled out, makes everything on the setup end go a lot faster. So these are all fairly straightforward. If you've ever got questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Merchant tables, I know a lot of groups have moved away from charging merchants for table usage, or they've allowed them to bring their own tables and they don't charge for the space. Fill that in if you want to. If you don't want to, if you're not charging for anything for a merchant, you don't need to fill that in. So here's where we circle around to kind of the final ending portion of the form. So circling back to the very beginning of this, the financial committee of your group needs to verify they're in support of using this system. There are fees associated with this, the 3% credit card or PayPal fee, and the 1% usage fee to a maximum of $400. This is off the total amount of the gate. So when I pull the reports, I total out how much has come in, and then I deduct the fees off of that one final dollar amount to come up with the amount the group is going to get. The reports that you get from me the day or the leading into your event, that is your temporary report. There will be, once society closes on their end, there will be a final report to make sure that, like, my math is correct, her math is correct. They should match. The only reason that they wouldn't match is if something wonky happened on my end when I pulled the report. And this is also good. We're going to circle back to what's upcoming in this when we're talking about the weird registration emails that come through. If for some reason when I pull the report, someone isn't listed, or something strange happened on the registration end and they don't show up for some reason, my report may not match what comes from society. They're pulling the same report I am. They're just adding another tab, another page to that spreadsheet. So 99.9% of the time, our reports are going to match. Because when I find problem emails, I try to do as much research to get those resolved prior to your event as possible, so that they are on your report and accounted for when they come to gate. The only time that becomes a big problem is when it's the final person that gets through the registration before the event, before the registration closes, and there's a problem. And if we close your event on Friday, before the day before your event, or on Thursday, the day before your event, I don't have enough time to research a possible problem registration. So closing your event preferably would be the day before your event starts. So if your event starts on Friday, it would be preferable to close it on Thursday or Wednesday. So I've got time to work with society. If I can't find the problem on my end, I then have to reach out to society to work with her to figure out where the problem lies. So those are the ones that are going to be the weird, why isn't this on the report kind of thing, is that it showed up in the final moments that the registration is open and there's not enough time to research it before I pull the reports.
This is one situation too where we've run into these scenarios at, after the fact. Please, and we will talk about this in a little bit, especially with Gwynedd going over the some of the pitfalls that we've found. If you have a question or somebody in your local group comes to you and they're like, this isn't working, you have to reach out to Snowden, okay? EPay at midrealm.org. Most of the time we can get this figured out, but we also have to be aware of everybody's got a real life job. And so, it might not be answered until the evening or whatever, and if, worst comes to worst, you can always reach out to the Kingdom Exchequer and we will see what we can find out. Okay. We had this weird glitch with their majesties for Better War Through Archery. We have gotten it solved, but they were proactive in doing it not, the day before the event. Try to do, if you have any of them, reach out. We will try to get them taken care of as quickly as we can. Okay.
Okay, so the date, your seneschal is typically going to be the one that fills in this portion. They're going to fill in the date that the group's financial committee has approved the usage of the system. They're going to print their name. They're going to sign the name. Now, the signature box doesn't seem to always come across for people to sign it. So it may be that they need to sign it, print it, sign it, take a picture and send it back to me. Because society wants to see the signed form. They don't want to see a blank here because then they're afraid that it's just some rando filling in the form for a group that may not actually have the permission to do that. They want to see the signature, which makes sense. The web link for your event helps me because while I'm setting it up, I have your link to your event open and I'm comparing what's on your form to what I'm building in the system. So that this way, if I come across any problems or questions during setup, I can be like, that's different than what I have here. Let me reach out because I've got a question now. So making sure that it's on here is very helpful. If I have to do it backwards, like if I have to go to the mid-realm calendar and go to your event that way, I will eventually find your event. If I can't find your event, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to reach out. I'm going to email. I communicate during the whole process. If it's a very easy, straightforward process to set up your event, that makes me very happy because then it's very quick, it's very easy, it's very short and sweet, and I can get your event open very quickly. The box here is just for kingdom use. This is when I've reached out to the Exchequer. I know that your group is in good financial standing. I can go ahead and do this event. So I put that date here. Every event is assigned an ID number in the reservation system. That goes on here so that this way, when I send your form over to society, they can go to this event number and at the end of the event, pull the reports and send them to me. And they copy me when they send their approval over for having a check cut and sent to the group. And that's what these bottom boxes in. She fills these in, sends them over to corporate. The third page is for your comp list. Modern name, SCA name, what's their role? If you're, I want to say I've gotten a lot of events since we've opened this system up that have had no comp on here. But when I question it in the email, because most of the time, like maybe the event steward is being comped. Usually there is one person on staff that is comped. Not always, but sometimes there is. So I will always question when I don't see any staff comp, just to confirm no staff is being comped. If there is, I need them all on here. If you're comping like the local Baron and Baroness, put them on here just so that this way I know, like when the reservation emails come through to me and I see it, I can remember, oh yeah, they were on the reservation form, we're good. If I see a name come across that uses a comp and they weren't on in these two boxes, I'm gonna be like, what's going on? And I'm gonna reach out and I'm gonna question it, just because I try and be proactive of problems prior to closing the event, because if someone shouldn't be using a free amount, I need to then reach out to them and be like, hey, you didn't have permission to use this. I need you to log in and modify your registration to remove this code and pay for the event. And then the Royal Comp list, this is if you having a small event where you know, like maybe just their majesties or their highnesses are going to show up, you can put them on here. If you know that they're going to have a retainer for each sitting royal that's going to be there, you could write that on here, like 2 royals, 2 comps, or like royal, and then like 2 retainer comps. Just so this way I know when I'm setting up a code, I do set up a royal staff code, an event staff code. So that this way I know, like when they register, when I see those come across as 0 fees, I can look back and be like, okay, well, there's 2 registered. There was 2 being comped, so we're good. If I see any more come across, I then question that. And then this,
sorry, Snowden. And the question was brought up with these comps because, you know, when we first started using them, we thought we had the ability to back end put these people in. We cannot do that. Okay. Everyone has to still log in using their SCA number and all of that through SCA.org and register, even the royals, and they might have their chamberlain or somebody else doing that for them. But this was because we thought we had the ability to do that. We do not. Everyone has to register, even if they're being comped. Okay. Pre-registration's required. We know then with this list how many to expect, because if you're expecting only their majesties and that's only 2 free people coming, and we have 80 people who've used the code for $0.00, then we've got a problem here, because you still get charged a usage fee for that. And we want to make sure, you know, that you don't feel that, you know, you're being skimped on your event any more than you want to be, you know, with that regard. So that's why those are there. You know, if you don't know if their majesties are coming, then, you know, you can put a question mark. Nothing is like set in stone with these. It's just for our awareness when we start to see the back end part of it. Okay. Thanks, Snowden.
and then there's one final box here for anything that may have been missed above. Do you want to fill in some extra notes here? If you want to put here that their majesties and their highnesses are being comped, and you don't have enough lines, obviously, to fill in 4 retainers, 1 for each sitting royal, you can put that down here. So that box is for anything else that you want to put, anything else you want to communicate to me on this form. If you want to just reach out on an email when you're sending the form and fill me in on anything, you can do that too. But if it's on the form, then that's what I'm looking at when I'm setting up your event, is this document. And that's it on the form.
If you've got questions on the form, put them in the chat. I will try to, you know, facilitate them. If I can't answer them, we'll wait till the very end and have Snowden answer. We're going to talk about communications now. And she's kind of already highlighted a lot of this, but we want to make sure that we're hitting that. We wanted to make sure that we can show you some of the troubleshooting things. Okay, so Snowden, communication.
Communication, it's, if you don't want to email me, or if you've like, oh, blipped out on who you need to reach out to or the email address, please find me on Facebook. You can post in the Middle Kingdom and be like, the EPay deputy Snowden, you should be able, like, I should come up. You can find me somehow. I am listed on the Mid-Realm Exchequer's page as the EPay deputy, so my contact info should be there. Don't hesitate to reach out. If you've got any questions during my setup, if you're wondering how your event is doing while I'm working on it, don't hesitate to reach out. I need open communication. I need to, if you have questions, it's easier for me to answer your questions while we're working on them. If you are dead silent and I hear nothing from you and you're never asking for a report or you're never asking for a head count, it makes me wonder, like, is there anybody out there? So reaching out, communicating, asking questions, asking for numbers, asking for things. Just, hi, just checking in works for me. Just poke me every once in a while. If you've got a question, don't hesitate. I'm not that scary. I think that's all I've got.
I think one of the things too, that we need to make sure that check your spam folders, okay? Especially check your spam folders for confirmation emails from the actual SCA-rs program. It is surprising how it is going out to everyone's spam folders, and they're like, well, I did it, you know? So that is just something, check them first. And if you don't have them, then we'll work it out, right? Like, we're not sitting here, but Snowden's there, Snowden's available. We're ready to talk to you and get you through the problem solving. Okay, but we cannot fix what we don't know, right? So we got to have that open communication. I'm just trying to see my notes here. Special note, if you are hosting a kingdom level event like a coronation or a crown, their majesties, their highnesses, they want to know a lot of information about that. Like, we have questions come up a lot. So oftentimes we are utilizing a Facebook Messenger group with the core staff, all of the deputies, and, you know, the reservationists, the gate people. We'll use a Facebook. If you don't use Facebook, that's fine, but we need to be open with these communications and email. You've got to be checking your email, because they'll want to know things like, how many people are registered? Can you give me a count on the gate? Especially, you know, when COVID numbers were extremely high, we wanted to make sure we were trying to, you know, make sure we were being as safe as possible. So I'm just putting that note out there. The kingdom level events do typically use a Facebook Messenger as just a like quick, hey, I just need a question about this, and it can get answered. And Daphne will probably speak to that too a little later. So Gwynedd, we're going to turn this over to you now, and we're going to talk about some of the troubleshooting with confirmation emails and such.
Okay. All right. This is a confirmation. This is a correct confirmation. If you look at it, it's going to have an order number on it, the names of the people who made the reservation, what event it is for. It's going to have the amounts on it, and the amount due should be 0. If there are options, they will show. You'll see feast, lunch. It'll add them all up, and again, the amount due should be 0. 99.5% of the time, there's going to be no problems. That's the confirmation you're going to get. Please keep it. Don't delete it out of your email until after. We've had that problem. People go, well, I deleted it. Please don't delete your confirmation. Just in case there's problems, you will have your confirmation. If you have an issue of anything that's coming up and you can't solve it yourself, please contact us. That's really important. We do monitor the confirmations, and we try to be proactive in fixing them. Check your confirmation immediately. Don't say, okay, I did the confirmation, the email came in. It might be wrong. Chances are it's not, but it might be. So please check it immediately. It's easier for us to fix it if we know earlier in the process. Plan ahead, register early as possible. Do not wait until the day of the event to check your confirmation and find out that it's wrong. We can't fix problems we don't know about. If, for example, you thought you registered for 2 people and there's only 1 person on your confirmation, There's ways to check that, but you need to know that before you get to the event and say, oops, why isn't my wife registered? And that has happened. And we don't know what the problem was, but there was only one when they thought there were two. We can't fix any problems after the event is closed and the reports are run. So please let us know as soon as possible. Contact us. How soon does a confirmation come in? Immediately. It's an automatic process. There is no delay. You should get it within seconds. What do you do if you don't get one? First thing you should do is check your spam folder, because 99% of the time, that's where it is. If it's not in your spam folder, go to SCA.org and check your current email address. If it's not the correct email address in the system, it's going to go, if you made your SCA account 10 years ago and you no longer have that email address, it's going out into the ether. Go back, log on to SCA.org, change your account, change your email account to your current address. You can find your confirmations. I'll show you the screen a little later. If your email is correct and you still didn't get it, go to SCA.org, log in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see this option, My Event Registrations. Click on that. If your registration is there, everything's fine. You can print a copy of that, everything as well. If your registration is not there and you have proof that you paid for it, for example, a screenshot of your PayPal confirmation that says, yes, SCA got $34 out of your account, but it's not in My Event Registrations, contact us immediately. We can fix it. If your registration is not there and your payment did not go through, if PayPal says, nope, you never made a payment, then we're really sorry. The system glitched somewhere, just register again. But again, you have to look to see whether or not you got a confirmation and whether or not your confirmation is correct. Don't just assume that it's all going to be okay, because it might not be. What could a bad confirmation look like? It would have no name on it. These are actual ones that we did get. There's no name, there's no event name, and it shows a credit. I don't know. Contact us. We can research it and try and figure out what was going on. Another thing, sometimes this has happened like 3 times, but it has happened 3 times. It just adds random amounts. Why do you owe anything? We don't know. Contact us. We can get that fixed. So it doesn't show up on the report. When it will show up on the report that the gate gets that says, oh, and this person owes $92. Not really. It's completely blank. We did get one of these, and only one, but it just came in completely blank. If you should happen to get a completely blank confirmation, please contact us. If nothing else, we need to know who it went to. There's no way for us to know. And the other problem we get is occasionally I'm a member, but I was charged the non-member rate. You have to remember this system is not really very bright. If you type in your information instead of asking the system to look it up for you, it's going to charge you the non-member rate, because even though your member number is right there, it can't see it, and it will charge you the non-member rate. And there's a little message on there that says, press the little green button. Button, what button? Okay, it's this one, right next to your member number when you're making the registration. Enter your member number, it pops down to the bottom, scroll up to enter the last name, and then click the green check mark. If you don't click the green check mark and you type in that information, that's when you get the non-member rate. If you click that green button, it will automatically fill in and you will get the member rate. Any other questions? Again, you thought you registered for 2, but only 1 shows up. Check your event registrations at SCA.org. If it's still a problem, contact us. You might just have, for some reason, not made that second registration. You may just have to go back in and modify your registration and add them. Anything else, contact us at EPay@midrealm.org, and we'd be happy to help you. And that's it.
I want to make sure that that document will be also available as a troubleshooting thing. Before we get to Master Daffod, who's going to go, he has run a gate. He ran the very first event we had back after SCA-rs was started. So I wanted to have us kind of go through the whole thing, right? And I'm not going to talk for too long, but one thing I do want to iterate. It is the job of the local seneschal and the event autocrat to decide when someone comes to your gate and says, I registered, but I'm not on your list. It is their job. It is 2 people's jobs to decide what is happening. Okay, whether or not they were coming in, whether or not, hey, we don't have your information and you didn't pay, so I'm sorry, but you must, you have to go. It is those two people's jobs. We ran into it with 6 people from this entire time we started. And it was very confusing as to who decides who's going to be in. Okay. And, after talking through it and trying to figure it out, it is those two people's decision. Okay. One of the big factors of this, though, is whether or not they paid or not. Okay. If somebody shows up to your gate and they're local to you and you know who they are and something messed up and, it's user error almost all the time, it is their decision. Okay. Please do not give the gate people hard times about this. It is their decision, but you better be prepared to gather information, their first name, their last name, a phone number in case there is an outbreak. This is all because of COVID. All right. And you better be prepared to hand them a check if you haven't been charged, okay? There's no cash because Gate doesn't have cash when we're using this system, okay? So I'm just iterating that to everybody so we all know what the chain of command is if something happens, okay? Because it was confusing. And I'm gonna turn it over to Master Daffod, and then we have about 11 minutes. So we'll see if we've got time for questions.
As a reservationist, if you're running the Gate, Gwyneth's information was absolutely perfect, except not everybody's going to do that. So when you're running the Gate, keep in mind that there are people who will not have checked their confirmation. There are problems that will arise, and there are folks who will have made what is ostensibly a good faith effort to pre-register, and something didn't go right. That is the case where you're going to want to work with the autocrat and whoever else is in charge to decide what to do about that. In our case, on a case-by-case basis, we went with anyone who tried, who could prove that they made a good faith effort and could pay by check. We took their check, we took all of their contact information and allowed them in. That we did turn away some people who did not make a good faith effort to register. Okay, so after the event, when you've held the event and you've closed up and everything, you're gonna take your checklists of everyone that you checked in and compile them into a report. And real quickly, I'm going to go back. If I could share this for a second, let me show you the checklist that I use. I think it's up here. This is the checklist that I create from the report that I received from Snowden the night before the event. And all I've done is create a new tab on the report and move all of the information into this new tab in a printable format. And what I've got here is just, there's a box for check-in. So when someone arrives, you check them in. If they do not have an SCA membership number, you create an empty box to check that they have signed a waiver, because they must still sign a waiver. One of the things that I've done is I made this box much longer so that I could put in a membership number in case they can show me a current membership card. So make that box big enough to put in a number rather than just a check. Same here with the minors. If a minor is shown to have a membership number, it shows up as NA. If they're not, again, make that box much larger and either put in the word waiver or put in their SCA membership number if they can show a membership card. This is all the information that the Gate needs to check people in. Once you've checked everyone in, once everything is closed, you're going to want to create a Google document or some other online form for the people who did not arrive, who did pre-register but did not come to the event. You're going to allow some amount of time for people to request a refund. that Google document, and I don't have an example of that online, that Google document should include their modern name, their US mailing address, their reservation or confirmation number, and a good email address that you can send them a confirmation that you've received their request. That Google document should only be open for 1 or at the outside 2 weeks. Anyone who hasn't requested a refund after 2 weeks is going to be kind of out of luck. You have to close that event out so that you can make the report. The report that you receive from Snowden is going to include a list of people who did their online reservation and then canceled. That's not the report from Snowden. That's the report from SCA.
What comes from Snowden?
It's on both.
It's on both. Okay. So, but there is a list of people who registered online and then canceled online. Now, 2 things. First of all, you're still going to be charged for those transactions. You're going to still be charged the 4% for those transactions. But for those people, they did get charged, and the Exchequer will have to issue a check for them for their refund. And that's an automatic. You just do that because the SCA is going to send you that money when they send you the funds from the event registration. And you can do that immediately. You can go ahead and send those checks immediately. The other thing that you're going to know is you're going to know how many non-members attended the event. You're going to be able to get that from your checklist. When you know how many non-members attended your event, you can immediately send to Kingdom a check for the non-member service charge.
Yep.
You can do that immediately. Everything else you're going to want to wait until it gets closed. But one of the things you're waiting for is the SCA will send you a check with everything that they collected from the pre-registrations minus their fees. So they will go ahead and
keep that invoice too. I'm sorry, David. One of the most important things is please keep that invoice. Put it with your event report, okay? Yep. That will be part of what the Exchequers, your regionals, all of that will use when you file domesdays and things like that, okay? It will be able to be a check for you, like not a check of money, but a double check on your report, sorry.
Yep. So yeah, they will send you that check with everything that they collected minus their fees. At which point you'll be able to close out your event report with your, your attendance and everything else. And then whatever the Google Doc, whatever you collect there, all of those requests for refund can then be processed and people can be sent a check back for those refunds.
Yes.
As far as the check that you receive from society, depending on the timing, depending on where in the month your event ends and where in the month they process things, it could take upwards of a month to receive that check. So keep that in mind.
And if you don't receive a check within a month, please reach out to me and Snowden, because we had one instance where it got mailed to the wrong address, okay? And society will reissue a check, right? Like, this is not an issue here, but we cannot fix what we don't know, okay? So if you're not getting that check in within a month, let us know, because they're really good about getting that check out to people, okay?
There's about 2 minutes left, so I'll take any real quick questions, but
I know Vorlin just asked, can you create a checklist of these steps and we'll put it in the docs library? We're on that now. This program is not perfect. Okay. I'm not going to say it is, because it isn't, but it is something that, you know, we were trying to make the best out of something with reopening, you know, and I think Master Daffy can say, you know, we had almost 600 people at that first event, and there were some hiccups, but we were able to pretty, you know, steadily get people in the door and get people through and be able to have an event. Okay. And Apollonia, report the event income in the month the event occurred, even if you don't have the check. Okay. Also report the amount as a receivable. That's a good point too. So that gets into like how you report the stuff too. Within the month that you have the event, you will have a report from Snowden, right? You can report that as event income as a receivable until you receive the check. Okay. So we're putting that out there. Thank you all for coming and to this class today. And if you've got questions, please reach out. I love you all, and